What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the developers over at DICE made it very clear that they want everybody to be very vocal about their opinions when it comes down to Battlefield 6 and speak their minds on problems and issues they're having with the overall game. So in today's video, I wanted to go ahead and give you guys my personal list on fixes I want to see within Battlefield 6. I couldn't do it sooner because I needed enough time to really dive deep into all the problems, all the issues, and form my own opinions on what I realistically need to see, change when it comes to bugs and issues. And of course, as always, go down to the comment section and leave your opinions down there as well. Everybody's opinions matter when it comes to making sure that this experience is completely polished off for the future of the overall franchise. And you can't really do that unless people actually speak up about what they think is wrong with the current build of the game. But ladies and gentlemen, of course, before we go and dive on deep, if you guys are interested in more content like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. It posts twice here, once at 8 a.m. Eastern Time and a second time at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And also, if you guys are interested in my live streams, I do stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you guys are interested, gotta link that channel down in the description of this video. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, first on my list here is the Portal server browser. Again, they really hyped it up to a decent extent. And yeah, they did go ahead and fix it a little bit. As of this current recording, I think it's a lot easier for players to go ahead and build their own servers. Beforehand, it was impossible because you couldn't get your server up because there were so many bot servers open that, were taking up a bunch of space. But, DICE did already go ahead and acknowledge this. They fixed it. But I still think Portal needs a bit of tweaking still. It's very hard to, open up a server, get it populated, get people to even notice it. It doesn't matter how many players you have within the server. You could have 15, 20, 25, 30. And still, it's kind of complex to get people to actually see it within their, original browser. And on top of this, when you are in a game, I feel like there should be a shakeup option, since obviously these servers are persistent and the game isn't ending and you have to, go back into the overall match. There should be some type of team balancing option where after every single game in the persistent lobby, it shakes up both sides of the team. I don't know if it'll be accurate. I don't know if they can, put in a system that would actually allow us to dictate who's the best of the best, who's the worst of the worst, and then shake it up accordingly. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me. I think that just a simple little feature that shakes up the teams will go a very long way when it comes to Portal. And again, like I said, just a little bit more discoverability. The majority of people who put up Portal servers just do it to go into private matches and farm bots. I don't really know many people who actually genuinely want to open up a server and try to build it and build a community in it, because it's very, unless you can get like hundreds of people to try to go ahead and queue on in, you're going to be having a very rough time. Even if you want to do an official Conquest server, an official Breakthrough server, they make it very complex to, again, get it noticed. I would even go as far, I mentioned this in a previous video, but I would even go as far as paying money for servers again. That would be awesome. $5 to $10 a month. You can get your own official server. It will be listed as an official server. I think that would be great. But again, I just wanted to give my 2 cents on the overall Portal experience. The next problem I have is within Conquest. There are certain instances where the enemy team will be at 0 tickets, and it'll play the ending music, the music it plays when the game is coming close to an end, non-stop, from beginning of the match all the way until the very end of the match. And it's quite obnoxious. And I also believe that if that happens, you can't even win the overall game, and the opponents will win by default since they're glitched at 0 tickets. I don't know if that's true or not. You can go ahead and confirm or deny in the comment section. But regardless, it is kind of obnoxious not being able to see the enemy's tickets. And again, the music playing nonstop doesn't really pair too nicely. As I stated, I don't know if it's fixed because I've been playing a lot of Escalation over Conquest. I gotta be real, this game mode is awesome. But if it hasn't been fixed, it's good to get it out there. Next up, the Footstep audio. I'll be real. There are so many instances where I am quickly turning around because my teammates' footsteps are so ridiculously loud. And I have nothing wrong with that, right? But it's kind of hard to differentiate between an enemy and a friendly. I think that the footsteps need to be tweaked just a tad bit more because, as I stated, every single instance, whether it's a teammate or an enemy, I'm always checking because I can't tell the difference between the two. And it gets me killed a lot because I have some teammates running up behind me. I don't check my minimap because I'm too focused on, the engagements in front of me. And instead of checking my minimap, I guess I could just simply check it. But like I said, sometimes you're just locked in and you're in the moment. So I hear the footsteps. They sound really loud. They sound like, the harsher enemy footsteps. So I quickly snap, and lo and behold, it's just a teammate, and then I get shot in the back because I turned away from the current combat. So maybe a little bit more of an adjustment to the audio would be outstanding. And also, there is a problem that is still going on since 2042 when it comes to running with a party. For some strange reason, not every single game, but a decent portion of the games, it always boots out at least one of my teammates out of the overall squad, and I don't know why it does this so consistently. It only happened for me within Battlefield 2042, but I guess this problem has transferred over to Battlefield 6 as well. I don't really know a solution, but again, I'll just throw it out there so DICE knows it's a current problem. But basically, it's random. It'll be a random person out of my squad. It'll be 4 people all together, and one of those people will get kicked before the game starts. Not during the game, not after the game. Right when we load in, they get booted to the main menu, and they have to back out, rejoin, and then they're not on our squad, or the match might fill up, so, we have to either back out and pick them back up, or they have to wait in a queue to get into the game again. It's just not very fun, I don't think players should be getting kicked out of your party every single time you join a game. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well to hopefully give DICE a heads up on this problem that's been, like I said, here for a long time, ever since Battlefield 2042. Another thing that I would personally love to see, and I think a lot of you guys would love to see this as well because I see it all over the place in comment sections, is a better FOV slider for vehicles. I gotta be real. Even at max, it's still a little bit jarring and feels like it's just so up close and personal. It's very hard to go ahead and fly around in this game. I know others have mastered it, but for me personally, I think a little bit of a wider FOV would be very welcome. And on top of that, seeing revives on the scoreboard would go such a long way. I don't know why this is something that still hasn't been introduced into the game, and I feel like a lot of people know about this and have been begging for this, and I see it all over the place, but for some reason we still can't see revives. I don't know. I feel like that would be a awesome addition, and it would allow medics to kind of, showcase their stats off as well, especially if someone's kind of high up there on the leaderboards and they don't have many kills, maybe, a decent amount of deaths, but they're still racking up a lot of score. It'll be cool to see how many revives they have gotten across the board. I actually have another thing on my list here that got fixed pretty quickly, surprisingly, but I'm still going to mention it because I want to know if you guys think it has improved or gotten worse. But that is the boundaries for the vehicles when it comes to going out of bounds. They were quite small when the game first launched, but they went ahead and rearranged a few of them, and it does feel a tad bit better, at least in my personal opinion. But I'll still love to hear what you guys have to say about it, especially for all the vehicle mains, people who like to, pilot helicopters, jets. How does it feel? Do you feel like you have a bit more space? Can you maneuver a bit? I feel like for me personally, when it comes to a lot of these maps, helicopters don't really have it that good. There's not a lot of cover, and when you get locked on, unlike other Battlefield games, you're just kind of screwed. There's not really anywhere for you to go besides sitting in your home base, and the outer bounds areas are still kind of tight. But again, like I said, after this update, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this overall topic. Another thing that I have is kind of something that made me a little sad when I saw them introduce this, and that is the XP, the way they have it count down within this overall game. Battlefield 2042, they had it in a perfect spot, and I thought that they were really trying to set a new trend and show some respect to their community by, only allowing XP to count down in games. So basically in 2042, if you put on a double XP token, it would only count down if you actually loaded it into a match. If you were in the menu screen, it wouldn't count whatsoever. And I was so happy they did that in 2042, but here we are in Battlefield 6, and they reverted it to the Call of Duty ways, and I really think that's pretty scummy, especially coming from EA. They had such a good system in place, and then they backstepped tremendously, with now these tokens counting down in both the menu and in-game. So just keep in mind, if you put on a double XP token, wait until you actually get in a match. And from what I hear, if you wait until the very end of the game, it'll still count all the XP you earned throughout that match and just double it at the very end, so you don't even have to waste, the 10, 20 minutes of the beginning of the lobby that you're currently playing. All I can say is just time them out wisely, because this is something I don't think DICE has any control over, and it's probably going to be something we have to suck up, but I still wanted to mention it in this video because that was definitely a huge downside for me personally. And, guys, this one on the list is a massive one. I know there's a lot of different opinions about this take, and I'm just sharing my opinion. You have to keep in mind, I'm nobody special, I'm just a random dude on the internet, and I'm sharing what I think is great about Battlefield. But the smokes being locked to support is so booty cheeks for me when it comes to this game. It's really rough. I loved when you could use smokes across all different classes because smokes have become my main. I love them. I adore them. It allows me to be aggressive and actually push objectives and help my team. When I don't have a smoke, I feel like a lot of my engagements become a lot more stationary, and I'm too scared to cross, ground until a support player, drops smoke. But in all reality, if you don't have a support player on your team that you're talking to, what support's going to, coordinate their smokes with you? None of them. The majority of their smokes are used for themselves and themselves only. So a lot of the time, I'm just kind of screwed, and I have to play the game completely different compared to if I had smokes, at my disposal, no matter what class I picked. I know, again, this is an opinion that isn't the best in the Battlefield community. I know a lot of people are happy about it being locked behind support, but I'll still love to hear everybody's opinions if you agree with the statement or if you disagree. But I genuinely think that smoke should be universal, just like the frag grenade. Basically, on assault, support, engineer, and recon. The frag grenade could be used across all these classes. Well, all of them still have their designated equipment. Things like anti-tank grenades for only engineer, or, the motion grenades only for recon, flashes only for assault. Stuff like that is okay. But smokes, I think, along with frags, should be universal for everybody. But again, that's just my 2 cents. Once again, this next upcoming criticism might be kind of controversial, but I still want to share it with you guys. And that is my hatred for the sweet spot mechanic when it comes down to sniper rifles within Battlefield 6. For those who don't know, there's one game and one game only in the whole Battlefield franchise where you can get a one-shot kill on an opponent with a sniper rifle in Battlefield while they're still at full HP, and that is in Battlefield 1. Basically, depending on the range that you are at and also the sniper rifle that you're using, each one had a different range where they had a sweet spot mechanic. But if you got in the correct range, you could basically one-shot them. I completely forget. I think it's maybe chest only. I don't know if it's different body parts, but I'm pretty positive it's upper torso. And you get a one-shot kill. And I know a lot of people are probably going to celebrate this and say this should be in Battlefield, but it shouldn't. Battlefield sniper rifles take a lot of skill and a lot of thinking as well. And headshot is king. Either you're trying to nail headshots or you're supporting your team, being a good recon player, keeping yourself near the objective, not, 50 trillion miles away, to where you can pluck opponents and do damage, hit them in the legs, hit them upper torso, make them extraordinarily weak, so when your team is pushing in, they can finish them off, or while your team is making them weak, they're all pretty much one-shot. As long as they're a little under 100 HP, you could pretty much one-tap them to any part of their body. It's only when they're 100 HP that you can't, but in Battlefield 6, they brought back the sweet spot mechanic, which allows some snipers at certain ranges to one-shot you to the chest, even at 100 HP, and it's just, I don't know, I've never been a fan of that. I prefer Battlefield snipers having one-shot headshot, two-shot to the body, and again, if they're hurt, then yeah, make it one-shot. But I still feel like that is the best way of handling things. And I also have to talk about the adrenaline injector within the assault class. I gotta be real, I play a decent amount of assault because I really enjoy the spawn beacon. I think it's extraordinarily useful to keep your team up in the action and keep applying pressure to certain flags. And I also love the ladder because it allows me and my squad to get to really cheeky spots and really cheeky head glitches that you typically wouldn't see, and it catches a lot of opponents off guard. And also, all that equipment, although the assault class is known as the greedy class, all of that equipment is used universally. Like I said, my squad mates always benefit from my spawn beacons, and they always benefit from my ladders being able to use the head glitches and things that, I make for them. But the adrenaline injector is the standard equipment. It used to be a stim back in the early, play tests, so you could actually heal yourself, but a lot of people complained about being able to heal yourself and said it takes away from the support role. Honestly, I didn't mind, just like in 2040, I know 2042 is a bad example and people hate it. But, that's how you get extra medicine. You know what I'm saying? You can't always have a stim shot on you. You use it and it's gone. And the only way you can get one back is if a support player actually has a med box for you. So at the end of the day, you still needed a support player all the time. You couldn't just have infinite stims and just never have to worry about, support being your main med system. No. If you want meds, you gotta go to a support player no matter what. But still, people didn't like it. They changed it to basically just giving you a speed boost, and I think it's also a reduction to stuns. But the only class that really has stuns is Assault. So I'm gonna be real. The majority of situations that you use the adrenaline injector are completely pointless. The best case scenario is when you need to run from point A to point B and you just want a little bit of a speed boost to get you there faster. But there's very few times I ever think of injecting myself with this thing ever in combat. I'd much rather just prioritize, getting up in there, make sure my gun is ready for any opponent and just leave it at that. So I feel like some tweaks would be very helpful to make sure that thing is a bit more used, because I don't think many assault players even use this thing. It just kind of sits there and it's a wasted slot when it could be something a lot more handy, in my personal opinion. And last but not least, this one is probably not going to be changed that much, but I still had to put it in this video because I think it's horrible. The UI in this game, it is absolutely horrifying. Not the in-game UI, but when you're in the menu screen, that side-scrolling Hulu mentality that every single game in the world is picking up now. I despise it. It's so ugly. It's hideous. It ruins everything. And on a game, too, that has, I enjoy the backdrop of having all your characters, sitting around with their gear, their loadouts, looking really dope. I like that, but then you have this whole side-scrolling UI that even, overcomes the players who are on the screen. Like, it just takes over everything. It looks horrible. I hope they tweak it. I really hope they tweak it. I've seen a ton of different examples on Reddit that looked phenomenal, but 9 times out of 10, this is going to stay. I don't know why all these publishers want to force these in their game. Maybe they have statistics behind the scenes saying that, it's better for retention or something. I don't know. I'm so tired of stats dictating choices within these games. Sometimes stats can be useful and they could be handy, but then there's other instances where they just give us crap. Absolute crap, garbage. Like Call of Duty skill-based matchmaking, for example. They claim their stats show us that, having skill-based matchmaking is better, and here we are with BO7, and it's now removed. Apparently, us, the community, was correct this whole time, but again, still to this day, the stats prove us wrong, but here they are changing it. You shouldn't always track down with the stats, especially when it comes to the UI for Battlefield. I really hope they change it because it looks ugly in Battlefield 6, and it's so hard to navigate if you're a new player. Once you get the hang of it, obviously you'll know. If you have, a decent amount of hours in this game, you'll definitely be able to scan through everything, but for a newcomer, it is very, very, it's bad. That's the simplest way I could put it. It is bad. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much all I have for you guys. Please, make sure you go down in the comment section and make sure your voices are heard. I'm begging you. Leave your opinions on what you think should be changed, things that could be improved, and give good constructive criticism. I know there's going to be tons of, trolls out there that are just going to be like, oh, Battlefield 6 bad, Battlefield 6 trash, garbage, so on, like, nothing really to say. But for those who do genuinely want to see good things happen to this game and a good future, leave a list on what you think could be improved, things that, you want to see in the upcoming future, and, make sure you give some details with it as well, because no details makes it kind of pointless and hard for a lot of these developers to, understand what you're trying to say and what you're trying to get at. But, ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a dislike. Don't forget subscribing and hit that bell. I post twice here, once at 8 a.m. Eastern Time and a second time at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And also, if you guys are interested in my live streams, I stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, if you guys are interested, got a link to that channel down in the description of this video. But as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all next one. Peace out.